Welcome to this birding story. Ptarmigan again? Asking the question, once you find a bird you've spent a lot of effort looking for, will you ever see it again? For this story, the ptarmigan is the bird in question, and there are 3 species: white-tailed, willow, and rock ptarmigan. All 3 live in tundra environments, at or above the tree line in high-elevation alpine mountain tundra or high-latitude Arctic tundra. Looking at their range maps, willow and rock ptarmigan are more northerly and are more common in northern Canada and Alaska. White-tailed, on the other hand, is the only one of the 3 that can be found in the lower 48 states, in places like the alpine tundra of Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. In winter, males and females of all 3 species turn stark white, camouflaging themselves against the snow. During the summer, males lose much of their white plumage but retain some. Females, on the other hand, lose most, if not all, of their visible white feathers, making them extremely camouflage in the rocky tundra landscape. In the summers of 2007 and 2008, I spent a lot of time in Rocky Mountain National Park, and when I had opportunity, I scoured this landscape of the alpine tundra looking for white-tailed ptarmigan. It turned out to be a pretty monumentally difficult task, as each rock looked like it could have been a summer plumaged ptarmigan. After several attempts and hours of searching, I finally had a lead, with the help of another birder from Sweden. He spotted a bump on a rock at quite a distance, and with the scope's help, we were able to decipher that it was a ptarmigan after all. I decided the distant scope view wasn't enough and came in closer for a better look. This male gave me incredibly close looks, and I was ecstatic as I had put in so much effort to find such a neat bird. Would this be the only ptarmigan I would see? Would I ever see a ptarmigan again? As circumstances turned out, indeed I would encounter ptarmigan again. Not only that, but I would encounter it again and again and again. I would hear the ptarmigan calling at dusk with the youth group I was helping to host during their singing time. Then again I encountered them in the early morning light as I climbed Long's Peak, but the hikers I was with didn't want to stop and wanted to reach the summit before it got too late in the day. Then finally, and perhaps most comically, I ran into a pair of ptarmigans on perhaps the busiest trail in the park with a loud and rambunctious youth group. Take a look at the video and watch for yourself. Now let's talk about my friend Mike, who has perhaps one of the unluckiest track records when trying to find a ptarmigan of anyone that I know. Mike had made 3 previous trips to Alaska in 2017, 2019, and 2020, and had driven an estimated 7,000 miles or more scouring Alaska for all birds, but for the ptarmigan in particular. Of course, that meant countless hours and miles of hiking effort in search of this bird as well. Try as he might, Mike could not find a ptarmigan. We both joked about how many times can a person go to Alaska without seeing a ptarmigan. Well, how about let's try 4? And this time, I got to join. We visited Alaska together in late May and early June of 2021. Together, we searched several places that were known to have ptarmigan at them, including Chugach State Park, where we endured the grueling conditions of rocky terrain and strong winds. We also spent significant time and effort at Hatcher's Pass, this beautiful abandoned mining town. We walked the road and through a lot of deep, loose snow, and even climbed up the sides of slopes in search of ptarmigan, but to no avail. But one late night on the Denali Highway, something special happened. It may have been after 1 a.m. and still light, mind you, at this latitude, but our luck was about to change. When I had finally settled in for the night, and that's hard to do when the birds are all still singing, I actually heard a ptarmigan calling outside of my tent. A sound that was going to get me up out of bed. Let the video tell the rest of the story. Mike was fast asleep and I couldn't rouse him, so I first investigated on my own and found the bird easily. Then, once located, I decided I better get Mike up. With all of his previous bad luck trying to find this bird, I wasn't going to pass up this opportunity, even at 1:30 in the morning. And as the video shows, I got him out of bed, and he got to see that ptarmigan. Although, I wonder if he still thinks it feels like a dream. It was certainly hard to get back into bed and get to sleep, but sheer exhaustion took over, and we did get some sleep. The next morning, our luck continued as the bird returned to camp for even better views in the brighter light of morning. This time, it was even more tame and allowed even closer approach. It must have felt safe, because we watched it for quite some time at close range, sitting in the rocks. Then, eventually, it got up and comfortably started foraging right in front of us. Eventually, it moved on, scurrying off into the brush. What a memorable way to both end the curse for Mike and to add this bird to both of our life lists. It truly was a close encounter to remember. Now that we had broken the curse for Mike, we figured we'll probably see these things all over the place, like my experience with the white-tailed ptarmigan in Colorado. And especially since we had yet to visit Denali National Park, which is one of the best places to look for ptarmigan. The trip through Denali required a Park Service bus trip. Most of the touring was as we drove, but the guide would stop when we saw wildlife and stop at a few overlooks for us to do short walks and to take pictures. And of course, along the way, we got to know the passengers on the bus, especially the ones sitting close to us. As we talked to the other passengers, they got to know us and quickly became aware of our being birders and naturally our desire to see a ptarmigan. As we described the bird, it became apparent that we were about the only ones on the bus that had not yet seen a ptarmigan. The people in front of Mike had seen one at the last bus break on a short walk, when we were a very short distance away, but they didn't know to call us over. The couple in front of me turned around and revealed that they had seen one from the bus window alongside the road. Then later, another couple boarded the bus after hiking and told us a story of how they came across a ptarmigan nest. For the rest of the trip, the other passengers were all trying to help us find a ptarmigan and would ask, "Now, what did you call that bird again?" The two people on the bus who most wanted to see a ptarmigan were denied by Denali. Go figure. However, the 20,000-foot peak of Denali did not deny us, as it does 70% of visitors to the national park. And were I to choose between seeing a ptarmigan and the peak of Denali, well, let's just say I left Denali on a high. Of course, it was a little easier to say that, having seen a ptarmigan. However, only one ptarmigan on the whole trip was kind of disappointing. Will we ever see a ptarmigan again? Well, that remains to be seen. I hope you've enjoyed this birding story, Ptarmigan Again. Thanks so much for joining.